All right, and we're recording. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming. This is the QuickBooks Deep Dive with Brandy. Great to have you back, Brandy. I'm turning on the Q&A, so if you have questions, I assume format's pretty similar to last time. Brandy, correct me if I'm wrong, but last time it was some demoing and just answers to all the millions of questions people had. So Brandy's great. Take advantage of her expertise here. Drop your questions into the chat. Or into the Q&A if it's something you want us to circle back to at the end. But otherwise, Brandy, I'll just let you take it from here.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, happy to be back. The last one was so fun. I'm so excited for this one today. So yeah, just to give a quick intro about me before we dive in. So hello, everybody. My name is Brandy. I'm currently a group product manager for our strategic integrations product group at HubSpot. So we focus on building integrations between HubSpot and outside systems, mostly larger systems that we want to have a great strategic partnership with, and we want to have a really deep strategic integration with as well. So not only are we trying to add all the syncs to sync data back and forth, but we're also trying to solve additional use cases as well. So a handful of the integrations that my team owns is like Zoom, Slack, Salesforce, QuickBooks, Dynamics, NetSuite, Shopify. So we're doing a lot of cool stuff and really trying to expand those integrations and make them hopefully the best of the best. So hopefully you'll see a lot of things today that will also are just like similar themes that we're using across all our other integrations. So cool. So first, what I was kind of thinking of running through was just running through a quick high-level overview of the QuickBooks integration. The QuickBooks integration solves for a lot of different use cases and has just expanded to also support additional features within HubSpot. So I want everyone to just kind of keep that in mind. But yeah, happy to kind of dive through and start kicking off with our QuickBooks integration. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Alrighty, perfect. So as I mentioned that the QuickBooks integration is built for a number of different use cases. The integration originally started with us knowing, hey, you're using your CRM, you have marketing tools, you want to connect your accounting system so you can connect that actual revenue to all your sales, service, and marketing decisions that you're making in HubSpot. How awesome it is to run, a marketing blog or a marketing event. But if you can't tie back that actual revenue, it's hard to know like what was the real ROI on that event. And how can we tie it back to see what was the end, not just the deal, what was the actual like invoice and insight that we received. So that was one of the initial kind of drivers for our QuickBooks integration, was pulling in that additional data to help have that closed loop view of your business. So first, when you install the QuickBooks integration, it will be installed and then it will appear on your connected apps page here. So when you go to click on it, you'll see similar things that I ran through, or actually I think I touched on this last week for our Salesforce run through, but we're working a ton on adding this home tab. You'll also see it called feature discovery for some of our other integrations, just because we really want folks to understand all the things you can do with the integration. We understand there's like information you're reviewing on the marketplace page as you're getting up to speed. Then there's all these settings. But we also want you to have that like strategic angle of like, why are we building some of these features? Who are they for? So this is kind of like the initial thing we're doing of just kind of calling out all the things our integrations do. And we're hoping to really expand on this more. A thing I hear all the time is, oh, we're using the integration, but we're not using it to our full list. Which sometimes, you don't have to use all the features. Maybe one set of features particular, helpful for you and your business. So this is just something here that we're really trying to help highlight folks to understand, why did we add this feature and what is like the strategic benefit that you guys can get from it if you do implement this into your process. Another big call out I want to mention, because we've been hearing this a ton, particularly from accountants, that when they go to integrate their accounting software with another piece of software, it is terrifying. You do not want, the data to be ruined. You have no idea what the system is going to do. And there is this big sense of, worry. So big thing I want to call out is that when you install the QuickBooks integration, nothing is turned on by default. Everything is in your control, and everything here you'll have settings to turn on or off. But as the default, when you install these things, we just authenticate and then nothing happens till you set it up. So I just want to help just reiterate that, because that is something we've heard a ton for folks that are looking to, integrate these systems, or maybe not sure how to get their team on board to integrate these systems so they can have additional insight into this data. So next, here are those 3 object syncs. So right now we have 3 object syncs for integration. You can sync contacts into HubSpot, products into HubSpot, and then invoices as well. So my team helped kick off the new invoice object within HubSpot. So as of right now, you can sync in these invoices and use them across our platform. You can build list segmentations on it. You can kick off automation for maybe if someone hasn't paid an invoice. And you can also use it in our reporting builder to cross-reference it across any data within HubSpot. And all of these, as I mentioned, have insight into here, the sync settings and field mappings. So out of the box, we have a set of field mappings, but you can go ahead and add new additional field mappings for contacts, products, and invoices. So here's that use case of pulling in that data, tying it into the rest of the data that you have in HubSpot to help power, your marketing, sales, and service decisions. I'm going to quickly just bounce back to the chat just to see if there's any questions.
Yeah, we did get a couple in here. One, is it QuickBooks Online only or desktop? Oh, yep, you're seeing it. And then the others are just technical problems with the webinar platform. So don't worry about those.
Okay. Yes, it is only QuickBooks Online right now. We have heard a ton about QuickBooks Desktop. I think that's definitely something we're going to keep noodling on. I think for this year, it will still be solely just QuickBooks Online. But we have received definitely a lot of questions around QuickBooks Desktop. But yeah, right now it is only QuickBooks Online. I think within this year, we'll only have QuickBooks Online. But yeah. Perfect. So I'm going to touch on just some of the other features. So some of the other features we have as well are actually helping automate or just, better improve that time from the sales rep creating those deals to then passing that information to accountants and having them spin up an invoice or sales receipt or an estimate and send that to their customer. So right now we do have 3 workflow actions that live in deal and quote workflows. So let me just go ahead and pull up a deal workflow here. So if you're integrated with our QuickBooks integration, you will see 3. This one's a whole. You'll see 3 workflow actions. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and create a new one. My portal has been around. I don't know if I mentioned this in the beginning, but I've been at HubSpot for 8.5 years. So my portal is just filled with a lot of interesting old data.
Jess is running a great session next week on managing your workflows at scale.
I should probably attend that. But perfect. So here, so after you're integrated, you'll have 3 workflow actions added here. So here we have create a QuickBooks invoice, create a QuickBooks sales receipt, and create a QuickBooks estimate. So what's great about these is, let's say I have a deal, and anytime that deal closes, an invoice needs to be created. So what's really helpful here is that you can actually control when the data will go from HubSpot into QuickBooks. And here's just some insight into what you'll need to set. So you basically just set what account you want it to go to. I have 2 QuickBooks accounts integrated, so it's just picking which one. Setting what the payment term should be. This is just saying we'll pass the customer information that's on the deal to the invoice. We'll also pass the products. And then also, if your products in HubSpot do not yet exist in QuickBooks, what we will try to do is when we go to create the invoice, we will try to match them with products that already exist. But if we do not find one that already exists, then we will create a net new product. So here you can select like the income account that the new product should be created in. And it's as simple as that. And then what's great with this is you can, sorry, this is all new. With this, you can add any filters to actually say, when the object is created, or I just want to add like deal stage, is set to closed 1. We'll go ahead. Oh, apply filter. Perfect. So what this can help is, instead of the accountant have to go back and forth with the sales rep, Too many options here. Go away. Going back and forth between the sales rep. This will just automate grabbing all that great data from HubSpot and spinning up either, an estimate, if that's what's next in your process, an invoice, if you send invoices, or a sales receipt. These will all be created as open ones in QuickBooks for the accountant to review and then send to the customer. So there are multiple ways to automate this process for the sales rep as they're closing deals. You can also do this off quote information. So these 3 actions live in deal workflows and quote workflows as well. But if there's more things that the sales rep might need to like automate or create as they're working on the invoice, you can use our manual invoice creation flow. So if I go to our deals and I go to just a deal, I have a fun pipeline. So if I go in here and I click, so if you're integrated with invoices as well, you will see this invoice integration side card here. And so from here, I can actually create an invoice. So here's a similar thing. I select the account. I can either have the invoice be created by associated quote. This just really helps with like having less clicks, but I can also start from scratch. This is going to match the contact information to a contact in QuickBooks. If one doesn't match, you can select one, and then you can either, it'll match the products. The deal I selected didn't have any products on it. So it'll either match it, or you can just manually select your products from here, spin it all up, select your payment terms, and then that will shoot the invoice to be created in QuickBooks as well. So a handful of ways to do that too. Also, we can tie invoice information. So as I mentioned, it can sync into HubSpot. As of right now, it will sync in and only be associated with a contact. If you create it from this invoice creation flow, it will automatically be associated with the deal and sync back as information is updated in QuickBooks. You can also add existing invoices. This is a little manual. We definitely have heard though that folks want this to happen automatically. You can also search and add these invoices manually to contacts, companies, and deals within HubSpot. So here I can just go ahead and click it, click add, and pull this in, and we'll see it as being associated down here at the bottom.
Okay, I'm going to jump in because you're getting a ton of questions.
Perfect.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, so here, I think I see the first one. So first one is it'd be nice to have control of what syncs.
Yeah.
Definitely. So we are looking to expand our sync within the next couple of months. We're looking to have two-way contact sync, two-way product sync, and then more advanced invoice sync expanding. So with that, you're going to actually see more like filtering options for what syncs, more field mappings, also more insight into errors, and import. So this would backfill and import historical data. So stay tuned. We're definitely hearing a ton of stuff that we wanted to make updates to syncs. So yeah, more coming there, which we're really excited about. And yeah, more will be applied to first contacts and product sync, but invoices will also get like some of that filtering that maybe you've seen in other integrations. And then we'll have more insight into errors also, which will be great. Perfect. Let me just scan. I'm just going to try to migrate to QuickBooks Online. Proposals and invoices. So yeah, I think one of the things here for just like how is HubSpot making this better for customers facing like proposals and invoices. So I think the main thing that we are trying to help solve is that time of copying information like from a proposal to an invoice. I don't know if you're like how you're using proposals in HubSpot. We've had also, I think wording is sometimes tricky here. So sometimes folks use like quotes as also proposals. So that's like a big reason why we're creating these workflow actions to help like automate the copying of this data from quote or deal to invoices, saving that back and forth time and saving that time of like copying and pasting data to hopefully have speeding up the process and then allowing your accountants to send out these invoices quicker, hopefully getting paid faster, and then money back in the pocket. Can the integration cope with deposit invoices and final invoices, please? So yes, right now we do just create open invoices. One thing I was about to talk about next is how the integration works with our payments feature, HubSpot Payments. Because basically from there, we do have a handful of features that when payments occur in HubSpot, it creates a paid invoice in QuickBooks. And then we have 3 other features that support the payments as well. I'm going to quickly run through those just in case any of the other questions are coming up, just to kind of finish the feature set.
Cool. Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect. So basically, if you're using HubSpot Payments, we do have some features to help support that. So basically, you aren't sending your invoices out of QuickBooks. You're actually sending kind of that payment, receiving the payment out of HubSpot, but you still need to reflect that in your accounting system because that's where you're closing your books and you want to track your revenue there. So we do have 3 features, 3 workflow actions in payment-based workflows. So if you are using payments, in payment-based workflows, you're going to see 3 actions. So here is my payment-based workflow. So here I can set the status of every time a payment has succeeded, create a paid invoice in QuickBooks. So here's a little bit different from the other one. The other one is creating an open invoice. This is actually creating a paid invoice here, all same features. So this is perfect to help reflect that payment reconciliation in QuickBooks. The other 2 features we have are helping reflect the fee that HubSpot is taking from every payment when you're using payments, and also reflecting refunds. So if you're using HubSpot Payments and you want to reflect that fee in QuickBooks, we have the ability to create an expense. So what this will do here is this will look at the payment. You can select payment type, payee, fill in all these fields that you would normally do for creating that expense in QuickBooks. And what this will do is it will take the fee that is taken from that invoice and create it as an expense in QuickBooks. So that is reflected aside or alongside the paid invoice that is created. And then the other last one we have is the ability to reflect a refund. So if you are doing any refunds with HubSpot Payments, you can have those also be automated and created in QuickBooks. So here you can say set the status. If the status of the payment is set to refund, create a refund receipt. So similar here, you can set up all the different information to make sure that that refund is reflected correctly in QuickBooks as well. Perfect. So those are the 3 other features added for payments. All right, scrolling through the other questions. Should deals be created in a separate pipeline? Not sure exactly.
So that question had a dedicated QuickBooks pipeline in your demo account. I think people were wondering if that's a requirement or if that's just something.
Got it. Nope, not at all. Just me kind of organizing my crazy data, because if you see I have a bunch of like Salesforce pipelines and things within there. So no, you do not need to have like deals in a separate pipeline for this. If you're integrated with QuickBooks that create an invoice card, and that associated card of seeing the associated invoices will be on all your deals. It won't be on just like one in a specific pipeline. Perfect. Yes, so can anything developed for the QuickBooks integration be used when connecting with any other accounting platform? So as of right now, we're adding a lot of additional features only to QuickBooks. QuickBooks has been a very big one that we've been hearing a lot of customers use, but actually we have a handful of accounting integrations also on DataSync, and those have actually grown and also have our one-way invoicing as well. I'm blanking on the list on the top of my head, but I believe it is like Sage, FreshBooks, and there's NetSuite and a couple others. So we are kind of keeping an eye on those, and we are working to build a lot of these features that we're adding to our QuickBooks integration in a generic way so that we can add these to additional accounting integrations as more folks use payments, and just more people are using some of our other features in HubSpot. So that is something that we are looking to possibly expand within the year. So stay tuned. But yes, we definitely have been hearing that a lot of other accounting systems folks use. But as of right now, QuickBooks probably has our most features, but we are keeping an eye out for so data sync will have all the contact sync, the product sync, and the invoice sync. And then we're going to keep an eye out to expand any of those additional features to those other ones as we kind of get more feedback on them. All right. Can you show us a sample of an invoice and a sample of a proposal? Not sure exactly what you mean by a sample. I think you mean within, do you mean within QuickBooks one that is synced over? So as of right now, let me just go ahead and jump into here. So we don't do anything right now with proposals. I actually don't know if, do we have a proposal tool, Kyle? I don't know if you.
In HubSpot? Not really.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know they were referring to a proposal. So as of right now, we do not sync, if you mean like proposals from QuickBooks into HubSpot. Right now, we only sync in invoices. So for example, here, if I jump into contacts, you have to click contacts, and then this will take you to all your objects within HubSpot. And then if you select this drop down, you'll see invoices. And so here you'll see any invoices that have synced over by turning on the one-way invoice sync, or if you have used that invoice creation flow, you will also see them here. So as of right now, when you go to preview them, what you'll just see is the properties. You'll see if there are contacts or companies associated with them, and just the properties there, and just set as the preview, just because right now, the goal of invoices was to sync in the data and then use it across our platform to build list segmentation or workflow enrollment. Like maybe if you want to set up a workflow for every time a payment is delayed or it hasn't been paid yet. And then you can also use all this data in our report builder. Our commerce team is actually expanding a lot of this invoice functionality, so more to come there. And yeah, so that's what invoices look like. And then right now, yeah, proposals. We don't have a specific proposal tool, but we do have quotes. So I don't know if you've used quotes before, but quotes are under sales. And there's a lot of different functionality there to kind of spice up your quote or add in different customizations within your quotes here. Mine's probably not as pretty just because it's my portal. But here you can see once it loads, like here's an example of quotes. I believe you can actually customize a lot of this now today.
Yeah, and we've come out with some pretty good templates. One is a proposal template. It's still basically a quote tool, but it's getting more and more robust. I don't know anything about proposals inside of QuickBooks, so I don't know how well those two would map up, but I assume that is the direction to go in.
We would love to do more with, like, we hear a lot about like estimates and quotes. So I think we'd love to do more with that. But I know the Sales Hub team gets a lot of questions about proposals. So I think definitely we'll try to stay in line with them if they do expand or add more there too. Next question here about taxes. So can you set a default tax for the invoice? So no, the way it works today is if you're using our workflow action to automate the creation of an invoice and we match up a product and the product in QuickBooks is taxable, what we're going to do is just then apply that as it creates that open invoice in QuickBooks and applies whatever tax that you've been setting in QuickBooks. We are looking to do a lot of tax and thinking about it more. It's a big thing that we've heard of. Folks would like to maybe either access the tax data in HubSpot, maybe even have access to like their tax codes and set it. And I should actually take it back. So that is how the automation works of it, to get the tax applied when it automates the creation of it. For our, just to go back, for that invoice creation flow, we do pull in your tax codes. So today, if you are manually creating, you guys still didn't click a great one, but if you're manually creating invoices, and we go back down to the card, great. I have my pipeline. I'm still not clicking good examples. Perfect. So we do. So basically, if you're selling only with, or if your QuickBooks account is only in the US, QuickBooks does this thing where they automatically apply the tax codes based on the customer and the correct state. If you're integrated with a QuickBooks account that is in a different country, this would then be clickable, and you'd be able to click that and then add specific tax codes to every single line item. So that is currently what happens for our QuickBooks flow to create an invoice in QuickBooks. But we are looking to do a lot more with that. We've been getting a lot of feedback and insight where either folks need to have more access to that in HubSpot, or they just need to apply it. And I know some of our tax works a little different within line items, within deals and I guess quotes and payments. So we are looking to improve that a lot with this year, trying to figure out what is the best way. So I would love to chat if anyone wants to chat about taxes and just like how you really want that to be seen or used within HubSpot. Because yeah, we've heard a bunch of different things, especially if they use multiple systems for tax and if like QuickBooks is not the main one. So definitely it's a big theme for actually our first half of the year that we're looking into. So I would love to chat if anyone has any insight of what they'd like to see improve with how creating invoices and taxes and sending that to QuickBooks. All right. When it is added from a deal-based workflow, it auto-associates with the deal, right? No. So actually, when you create it from a deal is when it's only associated with the deal. When you create it from the deal-based workflow, it is not. But that is on our roadmap for each one. We are looking to improve that. So when you create either an invoice from a quote or from a deal via those workflow actions, we have that on our roadmap within Q1, Q2 to actually improve that and make sure that, yes, if you do automate the creation of those, when you go back to the deal, you would see it automatically added. So yes, that is coming. More to come there. What is the best way to get training on these workflows? That is a great question. So we have these actions out here. We have a handful of folks using them, but we are worried that folks aren't finding out about these. Or workflows is such a powerful tool, which is awesome because it gives you a lot of flexibility and customization to choose what is enrolled, and there's all these options to like test and check things before you do that, which we feel like is great for accountants or folks that are worried about like how to reflect this data in your accounting system. But I think it can also be really overwhelming. What do I set up? What things should I set up? When should we do it? So I think we are definitely going to try to figure out better insight into how to do those. We do have a KB article that talks about all our workflow actions for QuickBooks, and then we do have that card, but I think we definitely are trying to figure out more resources and more trainings on this, especially if you're doing stuff with payments, just because I think there's a lot we can help like educate or just provide resources for folks figuring this out for how it should work best with your accounting system when you're using HubSpot. So more to come. Definitely would love to hear if folks aren't, what questions you have so that we can figure out, what better resources to help prepare folks with. Nice. Yes, I see a lot of comments about two-way sync. Yes, two-way sync is coming. We are looking to add a lot more with two-way sync fairly soon. So I'm really excited. We're really trying to expand this integration and just vastly add a lot of two-way sync. Two-way sync is always important. One way is a great way to start. It's a lot easier to start with one way. But I think when we just see folks using multiple different systems and you have different roles in different systems, it's very important to pass those things. So yes, more to come. More to come on two-way. Definitely within this first half of the year, which is really exciting. When creating an invoice, can you create the contact in QBO from HubSpot contact info? Yes. I probably ran through that too quickly in the demo, but yeah, so for the workflow actions, when we're creating an invoice, what we will do is we'll look at the associated contact from either the deal or quote or the payment. And what we're going to do is try to match up with a customer in QuickBooks with that same email address. If we do not find one with that email address, we will create a net new customer in QuickBooks. So that is how it works today. And then, as I mentioned, we're really hoping that two-way contact sync will really solve for this just down the road. And you can map a ton of additional data. And just as then contacts are created in HubSpot, they can be synced and created in QuickBooks. So I think that will actually fill in the gaps of providing even more information. But yes, but right now, if in the workflow or through the invoice and creation flow, there is a way to have a contact be created if it does not exist yet. I just had something else at the tip of my tongue that I was going to say, and I think I lost it. It'll come back to me. When will we have payments for the UK? I'm unfortunately not on the payments team, but I know they are expanding. I'm not sure how quickly we'll be expanding to the UK, but we're definitely super excited about payments and getting a lot of great feedback. And we're trying to keep up with just helping complete that and automate it so that it can just be reflected in your back office and not have to worry about it. So yeah, more to come.
I promise all of you, when payments expands outside the US, I will be so noisy about it. You will not be able to help hearing about it. I will not let it go unnoticed, I promise.
Perfect. Awesome. It looks like people are loving the information, so that's great to hear. Love all the questions, all this great stuff. I'm doing deals. Will the functionality also be applied to Zero in the future? Fantastic question. So actually, yes, we are. So we're doing a ton of work right now of like updating our sync for QuickBooks and building a lot of these features. And as I mentioned, improving a lot of the stuff. And we are thinking about for the second half of the year, applying all of those features that our QuickBooks integration has to our Zero data sync integration within HubSpot. So that is, I think, the next one we actually definitely will be expanding deeper in. As I mentioned, I think we're trying to get in a good spot so we can have a handful of different deeply integrated accounting integrations, just because it sounds like a lot of folks want to integrate this stuff and pull it in, which is great. Yes, as of right now, we are planning on applying that to Zero. Yes, things can always change, just to add that as a caveat, but Zero is definitely a one that we do already have a data sync integration. And I think just to help clarify, when I say data sync, what I mean is, so we have our great data sync platform. All integrations on data sync and in Ops Hub are free to install. You can add additional field mappings if you have Ops Hub Starter, but that was a big thing we pushed from the integration side, is that we definitely want all these integrations to be free to install. So Zero is actually on this like data sync platform. And what's great is all the integrations on data sync, you'll notice they have all similar settings. Same thing, that's us trying to help improve the consistency of when you go to integrate, feeling comfortable, knowing what you control and knowing what you can do with it. And then what we're looking to do is then add some of these additional features like workflow actions or UI or maybe out of the box reporting to these integrations. So that's where my team kind of comes into play, of going a little bit deeper with the integration instead of just objects and data syncs, which is still super, super powerful, very, very powerful. But we do know some of those, UI and features that help speed up business processes or maybe provide more onboarding or insight or show you what value you're getting out of the integration. That's where my team kind of comes into play, and we take them and make them a little bit deeper. So Zero is actually one that we are looking to expand and add more functionality. And then we are hearing of a handful of maybe some other accounting softwares that maybe we should add some of these workflow action features to. So keep the feedback coming, because I have a whole dedicated team on accounting SI integration. So we're just trying to create a bunch of them. So love it. Perfect. Love the expense feature. Yes, that was a big one that we heard. So that workflow action to create an expense, that was a big one that as we were rolling that out, everyone we talked to said, my accountant just asked for this. So definitely make sure that they know about it. It is all within payment-based workflows. So as I mentioned, those are like 3 big themes within payments. So reflecting the money, reflecting the fee, and then reflecting a refund have been the big things. So definitely make sure to point them to that, because we know that is definitely super, super helpful and can hopefully save a lot of time instead of manually creating all those fees. Lovely. Okay, does the create a paid invoice workflow action create a duplicate invoice in QuickBooks if one was already created from the deal? Or does it update an already existing same one? Great question. As of right now, we do recommend that if you are using HubSpot Payments, to only have it created once the invoice is paid. Yes, technically it would create 2 duplicates, and it will not like update if we created one via deals. It would not update then if it's going through the payment one. That said, it is coming. We are working on that within the first half of the year. I think why it wasn't created right away was because we found they're very different audiences who are using payments and then using our deal workflows. So, but we definitely have heard that. So that is actually aligned with that. The other question somebody asked about, like linking it to the deal. So that's a whole project that we're going to work on, tying it to deal and quotes, and then updating the invoice. And then also making sure that as the invoice, if we've already created an invoice, we'll then be updating it as well. So that's functionality coming, because yeah, we definitely heard folks that they want that invoice to be created right away. And then as it gets paid, update the one that we've already paid. So yes, that is definitely coming. But for the meantime, I would recommend folks only using the payment-based workflow to create the paid invoice as it's been paid. All right, next one. Is it correct that right now invoices can only be created by a workflow or by the API? I think this might be, so right now, invoices in HubSpot can be created with the QuickBooks integration by this create invoice flow. They also will get created as invoice records if you do this add existing invoice. And they will also be created if you have, I clicked the wrong spot. If you have invoice sync turned on. So if you have invoice sync turned on and those two other options, those will create invoices. And if you turn on invoice sync, those will come over naturally as they're updated or created in QuickBooks. You could think of these workflow actions we have as kind of like a two-way invoice sync. So invoices can technically be created via a workflow action from our our create. Let me just pull this up. I'm speaking before I'm clicking. So let's say this is, so I add this here and I add our, create an invoice. So if I have this set up, okay. So if this is set up, technically you could think of this as kind of two-way. So this could actually help you automate the creation of invoices in QuickBooks, and then those would sync back into HubSpot, and you would see them. I got rid of the invoice tab. All right, you would see them then in invoices here. So those are the ways as of today that invoices can be created in HubSpot. We do not yet, I believe, have a public API to create invoices. Right now, invoices is owned by our commerce team. I think we definitely want to get to a place where you can create invoices via the API. But yeah, as of right now, those are the ways it can only be created with the QuickBooks integration. Our commerce team is working on native invoicing within HubSpot. So that will also allow you to create invoices just through like a manual flow. But yeah, I think more will come later with APIs, but we have no current dates for that. All right. We use the HS quote feature for our service agreement and have customized them to our branding. Oh, perfect. Works great. That's just an exciting, fun tip. It seems like the QBO is feeding HubSpot data, but I was hoping HubSpot would feed QBO data. Exactly. But how is that not possible? I agree. So as I mentioned, that's a big thing that we're looking to add with two-way contact sync. So as I mentioned, we will have two-way contact sync, two-way product sync, and then we still only have one-way, but we are working on kind of expanding out these workflow actions a little bit to also help the creation of those invoices off some of our other data within HubSpot. So more to come. But yes, no, we definitely hear you on contacts and products, and that will be coming later this year. Can a signed document through HelloSign PandaDoc Pressify integration trigger an invoice in QBO? Great question. And it's been a while since I've looked at the HelloSign and PandaDoc integration. If they create an actual deal, or if they create an actual quote in HubSpot, so like that integration is actually creating an actual deal or quote record, then I would say yes, because then you can just use our deal and quote workflows to then it would basically, the PandaDoc proposals created, that syncs to HubSpot as a quote, then you enroll that PandaDoc quote into the workflow, we'd grab that information and create it from an invoice. So if that is the case of how it works, then yes. I do know, though, I think a lot of the PandaDoc and HelloSign back in the day would just create their own CRM card. And I don't know if those actually created like an actual deal or a quote. I'm a big fan of like all our objects and everything should integrate and they could create records, because then it doesn't matter if you're using our quote system or if you're using PandaDoc, it would all just feed into the same records so that you can still use all our cool automation tools, even if, you know, you use PandaDoc. So that's definitely something I'm pushing, because I think that's actually kind of why we are using QuickBooks. You know, if you don't use HubSpot's native invoicing, you can use QuickBooks and still sync it and use it, all that great stuff. But yeah, so that is my quick take on that. I don't own those integrations, but if they do sync with quotes, yes. If it is just its own CRM card where you just view it on a contact record and it's not actually like a record in HubSpot, then no. But that is great feedback. I think we have thought of maybe like expanding more with quote integrations. I know they've heard that a lot. So I'll definitely pass that along. So that's a great one. Cool. In the Q&A. Oh yes, I'm only in general. Should I be in Q&A? I just realized.
There's lots in general. I think get to the bottom of general and then we'll go over to Q&A. And there's a lot of questions. You're doing great. They haven't stumped you yet.
Okay, perfect. All right. Is there a way to select which type of invoice is created? For example, we have a one-time project. We also have recurring retainer clients that need to be charged monthly. As of today, we cannot create recurring invoices for QuickBooks. That is actually something we don't have access to via the QuickBooks API. We have given them that feedback. I don't know if they'll add it, but as of right now, that's not something we create. So we can only create invoices. If you have like invoice or like different accounts that you want the invoice to be created, yes, like we will reflect multiple QuickBooks accounts. I'm not sure if I'm getting this question right, but you can create it in different accounts. But no, we cannot create recurring invoices. If you are tracking like recurring in HubSpot with like subscriptions, what we've advised people is like, if the subscription is being paid monthly, that would then send to QuickBooks as the invoice, for September, and mark it as paid for September. And then a new invoice would get created for the next month of October, and that would create a new one, and it'd all be tied to that customer. So that's some things we've been recommending to folks. But yeah, as of right now, no for recurring. But if you do use subscriptions in HubSpot, it would then just generate a net new invoice for every subscription, every time the subscription is set to be paid in HubSpot. Quote-based workflows are a feature available to Sales Hub users and enterprise. I thought that came down to professional.
It did.
Yes.
Yes.
So yes. So actually, all workflows should be available to anyone who has Pro, I believe is the line. We're also doing a lot with bringing some actions down to starter, so stay tuned. But yeah, I believe though now, because I agree, that was very random. It was like all of a sudden quotes were like over here in Sales of Enterprise, but then like all other workflows were in Pro. So no, I believe now all object workflows are just in Pro. So if you have Pro in any hub, you get access to any other workflows, I believe. Okay, follow up on tax. In CAD, they use 3 decimals. Is this supported? Need to dive into this more, but basically what we're doing is like right now we're not adding any tax. We are sending the line items into QuickBooks, and then QuickBooks would apply the tax and do all the calculation and decimals in QuickBooks versus us like trying to add some tax and then send it. So that's what we are doing today, but definitely follow up. We want to do more tax. I think there's a lot more we need to clean up because we're seeing tax come up a lot for even payment customers and just regular folks. So yeah, definitely follow up on that. Okay. Oh yeah, great question. H1, so sorry about that. That means the first half of the year. My apologies. It is on the roadmap to sync the data to companies. Fantastic question. So we have heard a ton about, in QuickBooks, they have they have customers. We have customers in QuickBooks, and in HubSpot, we have contacts and we have companies. They're separated in these two things. So right now for the sync, we just only match up via contacts and we send the email, and that's kind of it. 'Cause that's the easiest way for us to like deduplicate. That said, though, that is really not ideal for definitely B2B customers. So that's definitely something we have on our plans this year to think more deeply about and figure it out. I think we might allow you actually to sync more customer data to companies sometime this year. More to come. But we've definitely heard of like, we need more insight into customer information in companies in HubSpot, but we also need to make sure that they're tied correctly with the contact. So we are really trying to figure out what is the best way to like reflect customer data, even though we're kind of separating it in HubSpot. So that's definitely something we're noodling on to just figure out if there's a better way you can actually like view customer data in HubSpot. So more to come, but we've definitely gotten a lot of feedback on that, that is definitely needed. So yeah, I think we might have some improvements sooner rather than later just to help better sync that into companies. But I think there's a lot more we can do with that and look into that. So yeah, that is one of the kind of plays we're looking into for this year. Nice, someone posted the KB article, love it. And I bet you can move a deal to a new stage by, oh yeah.
So here,
Can't
yeah,
love
they're just
it. Everyone's
helping each other.
brainstorming.
Yeah.
Perfect. Can syncing new customers be based on association roles? Interesting. As of right now, no, but possibly when we add more filtering, I'll keep that in mind and we do two-way. I'll take a look at that. But yeah, as of right now, no, just all new customers sync into HubSpot, but I'll take a look at that. For us, for accounting perspective, it's always tied to the company. Yep, we hear ya. Company, I agree. More to come. So yes. It would be helpful to talk about permissions. Great question. So this came out a ton when we first, it's permissions on invoices. Like who can send it and approve it. Invoice first. Yes. Basically like invoice permissioning. Yes, this came out a ton when we first created this in HubSpot. I completely agree. It makes a ton of sense, and that is coming. So as I mentioned, our one of our commerce teams is like really expanding the invoice object to be kind of more embedded within HubSpot, and part of that is permissions. So actually, I believe there is a prod notify going out this week. I just reviewed it. It's either this week or next week. Stay tuned. And what it's going to say is, I think first what we're going to do is allow like read, edit, like the regular kind of object permissions. That will be coming out. What we're going to do for all QuickBooks users, we don't want to drastically take that away from folks, but everyone will get a prod notify or a notification that you can now go and edit those. So basically everyone using the integration today, nothing will be interrupted, but net new, when you go to integrate, those will be locked down and we have to be given invoice permission access. So that is coming. So yes, stay tuned. That is definitely, we know not everyone should be creating invoices. That is very important. So yes, so that is coming of, I don't think all the ones you're mentioning here on like waiting to approve, send, but I'll definitely pass that on to our invoice team. I think what we're first just starting with is who can actually edit them, see them, kind of those standard permissions to make sure that's locked down. Perfect. See a lot about Kyle wearing hats. I don't know if I followed the joke, but love it. Love a good hat. Okay, perfect. Account here, not super well versed in HubSpot, but I know the QBO side. Where do I go to learn how to initiate a refund in HS that flows through QBO? Wasn't aware that we could do that via payments. Yes. Love it. So here I have this great workflow just set up already of in payment-based workflows. So if you go to create a new workflow and you create it under the payment type, you will have access to these four actions in QuickBooks. So you can create a paid invoice, create a paid sales receipt, you can create an expense, and you can create a refund. I would recommend creating a new workflow for refund just so you can set status as refund, and just so they're not going through multiple workflows, and then have a different workflow to create the invoice and expense. But yeah, so here is just a quick insight into what you can do. So you can set you don't need this. I don't know why this is here, but you just set payment status as refund. So as the payment in HubSpot is updated to refund, that would push it through here and it would create a refund receipt, copying all that information from the payment to a refund receipt record in QuickBooks. And then back to your question of where you can go to learn, that should all be on the KB article that someone posted right below. So yes, it's also on the KB article. That actually just went live in beginning of January. So we are looking to push a handful more information about payments in the next couple months. So more to come there too. All right, we're almost at the bottom. Can we sync subscription start date and PO number to a QuickBooks invoice? No. I believe no. Yeah, I'm pretty confident. Yeah, no for right now. Mostly because we don't have like a subscription record can't go through a workflow to create an invoice. So any properties on a subscription aren't going to QuickBooks. If that information, if the subscription start date is on the actual deal or quote, then yes. So yeah, that there. We are though looking, or we have talked about expanding the workflow actions so you can actually like map data and add more fields to invoices. So if you wanted like favorite color from the deal to go to favorite color on the invoice, you could like map that within the action. So more to come. But yeah, for subscriptions, I don't know if we would need to, right now we don't have any of our workflow actions in subscription-based workflows just because I think folks have been triggering them off deals. But definitely curious, and feel free to reach out if we should have them. This is the first time I'm hearing about it, so more to come. But yeah, right now it just copies it from deals and quotes. All right.
One last one squeaked in right at the bottom there.
Yep.
We do have a couple over in the Q&A tab too.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Does the payment schedule work with the QuickBooks integration? I believe yes. If you use it in the way of you have payment schedules turned on, a new payment record is created and sent to the customer for how payment schedules work, and that is paid. And let's say you have your workflow set up to say every time a payment is marked as succeeded, run it through the workflow. From that sense of things, yes, those payments would just funnel into the workflow as they're created with the payment scheduler. All good. If you wanted them to be like created before, if there are any, things you would need added, I think you would just adjust the enrollment criteria. Yeah, but I believe right now it does work because it's more just like, that's how it's managing how payments are getting created and sent to customers. So if you just have the workflow set up to as a payment is paid, status of succeeded, that will then just enroll those into the workflow as they're paid when they're originally sent by the payment scheduler. Sorry, were you going to say something, Kyle?
I was just going to say, you made it to the bottom of the chat. We do have stuff in the Q&A. We have like 3 minutes left here. So I'm dropping in a survey here into the chat. If you all in attendance could give a question. And if you have any suggestions or ideas for future sessions, you can drop that in there too. I'd really appreciate it. We can sort the Q&A by most popular. We could probably answer 1 or 2 of these. But real quick, Brandy, if people want to connect with you after this, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yep. So feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. Also, we're doing a ton of work with accounting. So definitely really interested in folks that are using HubSpot payments. Also, if you're just using this within your sales process, we'd love to hear about it. And there was a third one. if you're accountants, love to hear from you all and chat with you too. So I'm actually just Brandy at HubSpot.com. So if you want to send me an email, feel free. Last time I said that, I did get a bunch of emails. So my apologies if I'm slow to respond, but I promise I will get to them. And yeah, just more to come because we're actively doing a ton of stuff with the QuickBooks integration. We really want to make it super, super great. And then basically like apply a really strong playbook for accounting integrations and apply that to other systems too. So we're looking to do a ton of stuff. So yeah, definitely happy to chat and we're looking for feedback. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So top questions here. Are there plans to be able to automatically associate invoices with companies and or deals in HubSpot instead of only contacts? Do you feel like you've covered that?
Yes, we're going to try to add an automation thing if they're created via the automation deal workflows. And then we want to make updates to sync. That's a little bit tricky of like, how do we deduplicate it? But we definitely know it's crucial. I've heard it's so important to have these invoices tied to the deals. I will say though, just as a quick note, that even if like, let's say the invoice is tied to a contact and that contact is then tied to the deal, in reporting, you can build reports and see that cross relationship. Our reporting tool is a little bit different than our list segmentation tool. So as long as they're associated through records in some way, which technically they would be, that example I just ran through, our reporting tool, you should be able to still build reports if you wanted to compare like deals to invoices. So I wanted to call that out, but yes, we are hoping to add something to that within the first half of the year.
Cool. Some of these got copy pasted into the chat and you've already answered them. And we have 30 seconds left till the top of the hour. So I think we're going to call it there. Thank you so much for being here, for answering so many questions. Someone should have been keeping account because that was a lot. And there's lots of enthusiasm, lots of interest here. So please, everybody, Deanna has dropped Brandy's LinkedIn into the chat there. Connect with her. Yeah. Brandy, thanks again so much for being back a second time.
Thank you, Brandy.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, and yeah, keep the feedback coming.
Cool. All right. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.